Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, we're good.
Are you sure?
Right? It sounds more, yeah, maybe say like a longer sentence.
Okay. A longer sentence.
That's perfect. Yes. You know I'm gonna put that in, right? That's the intro right there. That's the intro right there. Go on, Club. Sound perfect.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, and you're our second guest. Are y'all gonna be extra with the
Super
juice
cute.
thing? Should I just
Oh. Yes.
know?
You are outnumbered today, my friends.
That's
No
fine.
Instagram
2 versus
boldness
1
in the comments today.
Interesting. Let's go.
All right.
You gonna try it today?
I
You're gonna
forgot.
try it today?
I will let y'all have your moment, your day, your time, because every number deserves that moment. So
Look
I will
how
let
quickly the story changed. I can, if you've been
let your
listening,
light shine.
everybody that's been listening can absolutely tell.
I'm
know
gonna
what?
let the deuces
We'll
light
take it.
shine.
We'll take it because we would have done it
Sure.
anyway.
I already knew it was coming. But welcome back, everybody, to our 6th episode of So Basically Podcast with your host, the Black Maria, and
Cabrona Logic.
and we have an awesome host. And we have an awesome guest with us today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Allie Boyd. I'm professor of communication at middle colleges around Sacramento, like our alma mater, Sac State, but primarily Sac City currently. And my pronouns are she, her, hers. And an interesting fact, the first thing that came to mind is I like my milk before my cereal.
Oh.
And I like to drink it. But also I use almond milk for those who don't like milk, but
Okay.
Gabby, the face, the look of joy. Wow. I thought we were club.
No, we absolutely are. Club, I'm a ride for you. I'm sure.
Okay, so I just
sure.
want to process this. So you grab whatever type of container you're going to.
Is it a bowl?
Yes, it's a bowl.
You have to ask. You can't assume because everyone could be different. So you grab a bowl and you place it on a surface. And the first thing you grab for when you want to consume cereal is the milk, and you pour that in.
Correct.
My main question, because I have heard a few people say this, how do you measure the milk? Because you don't know how much cereal.
Well, first of all, people have been taught to do it wrong all their life. So you're welcome for this. But also
teach us your ways.
To your liking, because you pour based on how much milk you want to drink. So I like to be full at the end. Also, I like to keep my milk cold, so I won't add the extra weird twist. I'll tell you, the extra weird twist is sometimes you might need to add an ice cube.
That's not weird. I always add ice.
Cereal for a while.
I get that.
Okay. Common ground. Here we are, because I lose people at the ice usually.
I was gonna ask you, but I was like, well, you put or maybe you might not be down for the ice. So, but I always add ice. I have to.
I will sometimes.
And people always tell me like, oh, your cereal is gonna be soggy. And I'm like, no, it's actually really ice cold and it's amazing. Honestly, if I don't have ice in my cereal, it feels like the milk is warm to this point. And I use almond milk as well. But
I definitely haven't done ice on cereal. I've done just ice on milk, and I've grown to really like that. See, Club, this is why I told you I was going to ride for you, because I actually can see why. I can see the benefit. And the benefit is that sometimes, and I mean, I enjoy doing this for my own pleasure, but after I pour my cereal before my milk, and at the end, there's always milk left. So then I just get to have like a little bit more cereal. But there's times where you over pour a little and there's just a never ending amount of milk. And I feel like I just have to keep eating cereal. And so like, I got you, Cliff. I told you, I get the logic of like, I chose how much milk I was going to have in the first place. Now I just match the cereal to it. And I'm not going to have to keep I can put it away and then I'm done, rather than having to bring the box with me to wherever I'm consuming this meal.
Well, I still bring the box, but yeah, it also prevents me from getting
That's still there. That's still a thing.
That's still there.
That still happens.
But it does prevent it from getting soggy. So that's, you know, it's just, it's a texture thing. It's a temperature thing. It's a picky eater quirk, perhaps. But
it's
definitely, thanks for feeling.
There's no quirk shaming around here.
I love it.
No fun fact shaming around here.
Wait, I forgot we have to do our really quick check-in too. To check in with each other.
Yeah.
So Chronologic, how are you since our last episode?
Am I since the last episode? When was the last episode? I am good. I feel like I said that last time and didn't really mean it. But today I'm actually really excited today. I am, after recording the episode, I'm gonna be taking the train over to see the Boo for some time. So I'm actually like really looking forward to the train ride because I've grown to enjoy it. It's like maybe like almost 4 hours or so. So I like want to have some like work time, but also like take a nap and, you know, be awake for the nice views and gonna be riding during sunset. So I'm just like, I'm planning the mood for it already. So I'm really excited for that. I've definitely been like struggling with like my productivity, like being satisfied with how productive I am, both like at work, but also outside of work. And like trying to like hold myself accountable for like when it's more than like a pep talk, like when it's more than like grace, right? Like at some point, like I'm procrastinating and I need to like get back onto it. So like trying to balance the grace versus the like, responsibilities. So that's how I'm doing since the last episode.
Love it. Okay. For me, I'm doing pretty good. I am just at almost the month mark left for my 75-day challenge. So I'm really excited about that. I'm on today's day 41. So so we're almost done. 34 more days. Almost done with not almost done with my book. I'm like almost halfway. I'm really excited. We'll see how it goes. I haven't had any alcohol, no fast food, no junk food this whole time. So, and I actually don't crave stuff anymore. Like, you know, you have cravings for stuff. I'm out here just living. So that's new. It's wild. It really is wild. So
props to you. I was giving you snaps the whole time, but didn't want to interrupt.
Thank you.
And our guests, how have you been?
Yeah, well, we're maybe 3 or 4 into school right now. So I'm doing good, but yeah, I picked up a second job. You know, COVID has definitely had an impact on my work life, but I picked up a second job. So just being balanced in both works because I want to give 100% to both. But sometimes, to your point, Gabby, I can give 70, and that has to be enough. So yeah, just feeling good. I'm feeling good today, though. Grateful to be here with my sisters on Valentine's Day, just surrounded by love. I have plans with the sister later, so it's just, I'm doing good, and trying to strike balance still.
Yes, it's VDay.
Yeah, so happy Valentine's Day to everyone listening. I know probably definitely past that once you hear this, or happy Galentine's Day, because a lot of folks are doing that too.
Happy Friendship Day.
Yeah, just hope that everyone that is participating in the holiday, if you do celebrate, that you are surrounded by people that you care about, that care about you, that you love, vice versa. And that doesn't just have to be a significant other. That can just be family, that can be friends, you know, a guest, whatever. Whatever works for you.
A guest on your podcast.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But
Let's get into our topic.
yes, so for this
Very
episode,
on theme.
yes, we definitely want to talk about friendship and sisterhood, of course, in light of the holiday as well too. But of course, talking to one of our sorors about that is always a fun conversation to have too, especially with Allie. Allie is super dope. So I did give her a few questions, and I want to kind of get her perspective on that first, and then we kind of can go from there. But the first question I did ask Allie is, what is your definition of friendship? And the second part was, how has that changed or transformed over the years?
Okay, yeah. So I have a few notes here, but also am thinking freely too. Yeah. So friendship to me today means compassion, and it means this equal give and take, or giving and receiving. And I have learned this because I've had a lot of different types of relationships, some that are from my sisters, but also some that have, turned platonic from romantic relationships. And so there's ways in which you can experience a friend. And I think probably the thing that has made it most, what defines a friendship most for me is the space that's created through the compassion, through the understanding, and through that, giving and receiving pattern. But before arriving at that, though, I did not see it that way. And I think it resulted in a lot of disappointment, because I'd have these really high expectations, but have these really unrealistic expectations of my friends. I have attachments. Possibly, I could potentially have some things to work out with codependency. I'm still learning that about myself. I would say that I would be attached in unhealthy ways almost to my friends, and expect them to be for me in times maybe they didn't have the space to do that, or in ways that they weren't able to provide, because that's just not they. Some friends, for example, are really good at being angry with you and helping you to release all of the anger. But then there are some friends that are better at giving you the constructive feedback you need to reflect on yourself and how you're showing up to the problem, not just how the problem is impacting you. So, sometimes I would want really I'd want that sort of constructive feedback, and I would maybe get more anger. People would be more angry for me than wanting to solve the problem with me. And that just was not always healthy, to be real. So that's definitely changed over time. Yeah, it changed a lot.
Real quick question, just to ask, when you said that you felt like you might have some codependency issues, or working through that with friendships, I've realized that I don't know if that's a whole Sagittarius thing, because I mean, I don't know that much about my sign, as much as I, will ride for the Sagittarius gang all day. But I've noticed that with me is that I have my circle of friends, and to me, they're my friends. They're mine. So when they tell me they have other friends, or, whatever else, I'm like, really? Is that what we're doing? Wow. Which makes no sense. Everybody's going to have different groups of, people around them, of course, or in their life. But to me, I'm always this is my group. This is not mine. And I don't know. I don't know. Allie, what's your sign? What's your astrology sign?
Oh, I am a Cancer, a hardcore Cancer. So
when you say hardcore Cancer, what does that mean?
All the ways in which we are stereotyped, I am.
Okay, noted. Really noted.
Yeah.
I would say, as the fellow Sagittarius on the call, it may be other pieces of your chart, only because when I think about friendships and relationships, I think that I actually have, or maybe it could be that I judge myself too hard, but I feel like I have a hard time having consistent long-term friendships. I have a very small number of them, and a very small number of people that I'll call my best friend, and then I have a large group of people that I call friends. And it's almost I feel like I have friends at different stages of my life, and it makes me think a lot about you know, times where I maybe consider myself to be like a little bit selfish or something because I don't invest as much in like my friendships. Um, and at the same time, you know, I think about a few episodes ago when we talked about third party guilt and when I
Mhm.
applied it to friendships. Again, I think it's also that like sort of like adventurous, free flowing side of me on my Sagittarius side of like, I've also like been here this whole time. So like if folks don't hit me up and I don't hit them up, I don't have no beef. There's no problem. But maybe our friendship isn't as strong and it's not like my fault. So it's kind of how I feel like I process, right? Like
Mhm.
how I sometimes start feeling guilty about like friendships that were once like really strong or really consistent, and that now, you know, maybe we haven't like talked in a while. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think I'm like as possessive when it comes, or I don't want to say possessive. Like I don't think I am as like feel so much of a sense of ownership around like my friends, because I don't
Mhm.
know that I could feel like they would feel the same about me. So it's like I got a couple.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
definitely had I would say I had a breakthrough. I have a friend that I've known since I was 8, 7, 8, and we were in our church dance group together, all the stuff like that, like throughout our whole like childhood growing up, especially in our teens. My best friend for sure, you know, and we were both one of the few people from our church that came up to Northern California to go to school. So I was really excited, you know, even though they're in Merced, I was like, that's not that far, you know, we can keep up and catch up. And that's when I realized that I look at friendship just differently. Like if I'm already consistent with somebody, I want to keep that consistency. And I kind of got hurt because they did friendships differently. They're just a different, you know, different personality. And it didn't really hit until they got to college. And I remember I went to visit them at Merced at the school. And during that time I stayed there, they said they were going to go get something from one of their, you know, friends down the hall or whatnot. And then they didn't come back for like hours. So I was just
Oh
left in their dorm room
no.
for, I think like 3, 4 hours by myself. And then her phone died. So I couldn't get in touch with her at all. So at that point, I was really done. Like I was so over it because it's not the first time that's happened with me with her. Like she'll go MIA on me previous before, like a couple times. It wasn't as bad because this time I drove 2 hours to come see you. I don't know where you are. At this point, it had been 6 hours. And I was like, if she doesn't come back in an hour, I mean, I'm going to try to go look for her. And then after that, like, I'm going to go, like, you know, because I didn't know what room she went to. I don't know nothing. So I remember I was packing my stuff because at this point it's been 9 hours. Like I still waited, you know. And so I was like, I'm just gonna pack up. I'm gonna pack up and I'm gonna go. Because I wasn't concerned about her safety in this situation. That wasn't the issue. It was more so like I haven't heard from you. Like I don't know what's going on because she will get caught up in situations. So I was literally packing my bag. And she finally walked in and she was like, hey. And I'm like, hey, what do you mean? You know, what do you mean, hey?
That's ridiculous.
The
Yeah.
audacity.
Yeah. So we definitely had a conversation and I was like, I can't do that. You have to communicate with me. And so we kind of just talked about how our friendship was from like that point on and realizing like she's not going to be that consistent. And then also other things that play into realizing just how she is with our, like with friendships in general. But yeah, her parents and her family used to tell me like, Maria, she doesn't deserve a friend like you. Like she does not. And I was like, not her family telling me that.
It says
But
something
yeah,
though.
yeah, that took me by storm though. Like emotionally, that really did hurt me. And then I was like, am I codependent with her? Am I doing too much in our friendship? Like it really made me do a whole self-assessment for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like that. Like sometimes it's a both and. It's not always like one person's fault, and especially really in any relationship, but in friendships, you know, breakups are not seen or treated the same as like romantic breakups, but they're literally just as impactful. Or, you know, maybe it's not breakups, but those sort of arguments that you get into, they can ruin
Mhm.
your day like a romantic relationship if
Mhm.
that's
Or
somebody's
worse.
choice too. Yeah.
Or worse. I think I think when I've lost a friendship, it's hit me way harder and definitely stuck with me emotionally, like drained me emotionally way more than any friendship for sure. I mean, friendship, any relationship, at least for me. Because I know with that relationship with the significant other, it was just for a certain amount of time. But most of my friendships I've had have been longer than any relationship I've had. So for me, I'm like, that tugs in my heart.
Yeah.
I'm emotional. I'm emotional, y'all.
Yeah, Sagittariuses are, especially out of all the fire signs, y'all are the most emotional of the three.
Okay, I care.
The most sensitive of the three, yeah.
Oh, but for Ali, for you, the same question regarding sisterhood. Like, what's your definition of sisterhood, and has that changed and transformed over the years as well?
Yeah. Well, I guess they kind of are interchangeable a bit, but one of the differences is, you know, that long-term commitment. Like with family, you know, you're just related. You don't have a choice. And I know, like with our sisterhood,
True.
like you can choose to join the sisterhood or not, but there's an element in which you don't have any choice but to love people unconditionally. And so, kind of that. Am I doing okay? Because voice wise, okay. Sorry, I know I keep asking, but
You're good.
Yeah,
yes.
we'll let you know if the sound's not working. I think it's working
Okay.
to have the video off.
Great. Okay. So yeah, let me just go back to that. So friendship is much more friendship and comes and goes and ebbs and flows, whereas sisterhood is, in my humble opinion, for lifetime. Hi, you see what I did there?
I see what you did there, Club.
Because in friendship, you do need that understanding, you need that grace, you know, in that space. But in sisterhood, that's a requirement in order for it to thrive and survive. And so when you have that space as sisters, you're able to call out kind of the toxic behavior you might be re-engaging, or somebody else is engaging with you. I think that there's a safer place to own the thing not right within you and how that impacts you, the way you show up. So for example, like Maria, you mentioned possessiveness and a friend ghosting, or like abandonment type behavior. And I can relate to all of that, and that being, you know, triggering for deeper reasons than just this friendship. Like it's because of them as a person and the things that have informed who I've become today. When you're sister, you recognize that in that person. At least that's your responsibility, is to recognize the more. And whereas in friendships, there's so many types that's not always guaranteed. And I don't think you can really expect that from every friend. Not gonna be in touch with the side. Not all are gonna be aware that, you know, they verbally abusive or emotionally abusive, that they can, you know, be manipulating, or possessive. Like, you know, some people are not in a place where they can begin to accept that part of themselves and start doing that work. So I think in a sisterhood, you have more accountability, and it looks different than it does in many different types of that we see today. And last point is just like, a sisterhood is worth fighting for, and not all friendships are worth fighting for, in my opinion. Some friendships are here for a reason and a season.
Clap. Applause to that one.
Yes.
Definitely agree with that.
Can you
For
say
sure.
Can you say that one more time?
Some friendships.
One more time for the folks at home.
Some friendships are here for a reason and a season, and you know, sisters are chosen. That's your chosen family. You know, you don't leave people that you choose. So, in my opinion, you know. But anyway, that boundaries are another conversation. Not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can leave. I'll leave it there, I think.
I think I love that you bring that up, because it reminds me that, like, I mean, even of course within the context of, you know, a Greek organization, a sorority, and sisterhood, in that setting and in that space, I think about my time as a dean, and about really, you know, at the beginning, the sense of responsibility that I felt in, like, making sure that, you know, people have the experience that you had, the connections that you had. And I remember that at any point, whenever conflicts would come up, I found myself just always saying the same thing of like, of telling them as individuals the same thing, which is I'm always going to encourage you to fix it. I will never, regardless of what the person maybe did to you, I'm always going to encourage you to have an active role in healing that relationship. Because as Ali said, we chose to do this, right? We made a commitment to be there for one another, and I can't tell you otherwise. And that is difficult with kind of what you teased, Ali, right? Around boundaries, and really the fact that we are all sisters, and then we are all individual people, and individual people change, and there is, you know, at some point a point of tension around what relationships are good for you, and what do you do when there's this overline, you know, then commitment on top of that, right? Like how accountable are you, or to what extent, or for how long? And it's like a really long time, in my humble opinion, as well, right? But I can imagine, and at some point, you know, how to identify when it's maybe more than that. It's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think when it comes to, I mean, you choose your family, and even within like the natural families that you're born into, there are some people who are really healthy for you and some people who are not particularly healthy for you. But it's through those relationships that you start to learn those things about yourself, and you start to, you know, demand that those are your needs and requirements to engage. So anyway, I lost my thought. That, I guess that's the best way that I could recapture it. It's okay though. It's freaking technical difficulties. That's all right though. No worries.
It's our thing around here. Audio.
Right. I'm like, we can definitely have a 2-second petty party about that. That's our fave for sure. I just wanted to add with y'all to definitely agree with that. I think going through those trials and tribulations with one of my friends from childhood definitely prepared me so for joining the sisterhood, because I think if I would have went in how I thought before, going through different situations with friendships and kind of doing that self-assessment on myself, like I mentioned, I would definitely be more emotional and take more things to heart when it comes to my friendships, because for like how y'all mentioned, like for me, my friends, like I chose them. Like my family, if I go through something with my family, which I rarely ever do, but if we ever have a hiccup or we have to have a discussion, it's like, okay, this is my family, like I'm born with them, like we're blood. But for my friends, for people that I have in my life that I chose, I'm like, I don't know, like I just ride really hard for those people. So if I don't get that reciprocated, I used to get really hurt about it. And it's not that I ask for people to do it back. Like I always just give. I don't have any expectations of getting something back from it. But I'm glad I went through that before joining the sisterhood. So if I ever had any miscommunications or misunderstandings with like any sister, or even with like my line sister in particular, because I like kind of on a big line, and understanding all our personalities working together, because we are like a line of 10. I think that was something that it helped me. It definitely helped me, so that I have my own bond with each of my sisters on my line, and they're all different. Like literally every relationship is different in its own way, and I think that's what I love now too. I know how to navigate through my different types of friendships.
I think that it's really important to be able to do that, and it's something that I feel like overall relationships is something that I think I'm really growing, or like an area of my life that I'm growing in and learning how to communicate better. Like I think that I've always been aware of how I feel and how other people make me feel, and how I would like to be, or how I would like prefer to be treated, and or how I would like the dynamic to be. But I don't always vocalize it for fear of just like, or not for fear, but for working on the area of myself that knows that I need to maybe let go a little bit and not be as controlling of a situation in a relationship particularly. But I also often find myself, especially as like I hear about like y'all's experiences, I feel like I I'm constantly thinking, or I constantly think that like I'm the bad friend, that I'm the other side of the story. I don't think I've ever like ditched anybody for 9 hours, and but um that sometimes like I'm the one that like doesn't put in enough effort, or isn't as like supportive, or really isn't like around as much. And like I said, I carry some of that guilt, and I'm also in the journey of identifying, like, as Ali mentioned earlier, relationships are like, it's two people, and there's a level of contribution amongst the two or more people for or towards that friendship. So I want to be more responsible for my contributions and be held accountable for like being more active in some ways repairing some relationships that I feel like I kind of like you know put in the back burner for a little bit. But I also that I think that's such a much deep rooted issue for me, that like I'm doing that with my mom, like I'm doing that with like my family, and I'm trying to like in some ways like take it slow and like manage it all, because like I'm trying to build a relationship with my siblings. I I went to college and I literally lived a completely different life and rarely updated them on what actually happened in my life. And I feel like I still do that sometimes. So I feel like I'm so aware of how much I have to work on how I build relationships, but I'm like have to start so high up that I'm like, friends, I'm coming. Give me a moment. Give me a moment, and also like help. I think I said this literally at the very first episode when I was like, felt like I was like coming out again or something, or for some people coming out for the first time, of like, I'm here if y'all want to be friends again. Like, we used to be friends, and if y'all trying to be friends again, like, hit me up because I'm here now. So yeah, that's a little bit of what I'm thinking about. I try not to like let myself think that as much, but I feel like if I was the other person, I would consider myself not the best friend. But we're working on it.
But see, a sister,
I know it. Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
Maria, but a sister would give and recognize that different seasons of our lives, in my opinion. That's how it's been for me and a lot of my line sisters. Many of them have kids now. They're married. Some are, through different phases of their career, and so like we don't have the ability to be there for each other in the same capacity that we once to be able to do. But and today now I recognize that and don't take it personal. Today I recognize, that's the nature of relationships, and that can apply to family, that can apply, to platonic friendships and sisterhood. But that's again why I think the difference between sisterhood, or even like your mom could be a friend, your sister could be a friend, but whether it's just physical because you share or it's by choice because you choose to be around each other, there's a way in which that long-term commitment is inherently there, and will always be there, I think. I don't know, I think that's if you and your friend agree to like, I'm in this for the long haul, that takes your friendship to another, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I probably should have, like, I definitely agree with you, and I will say that because I think I tend to not give credit and validation where credit is due. Like, I agree. I think it has proven true that sisterhood does have that extra layer of understanding of, I feel like I've been able, and I've had sisters, and even my own line sisters, I'm constantly talk about how blessed I am for the fact that we grew, I think, very quickly, probably, in my humble opinion, quicker than many lines in our chapter. The piece that you just talked about, Ali, that like we're gonna go on our separate ways, and maybe it happened because I think we had a few seniors and a few folks that like left right away and like moved, and I think we very quickly learned how to like keep up with the whole line by keeping up with certain people who then keep up with other people, and then you just like are constantly checking in on each other, right? And like touch base every now and then, but in between that time, there's no animosity or hostility built because we're not talking to each other. And I've been just so appreciative of that. It doesn't mean that we haven't had conflicts, because I for sure have had conflicts with line sisters. But once that was resolved, it was just such an easy transition to just say, I'm gonna talk to you once a year, and that day I talk to you is gonna be the best conversation we've ever had. And there's gonna be nothing but love and care for just checking in and really knowing where you've been since the last time that we talked. So I do appreciate that piece around sisterhood. Around sisterhood, not just for my line sisters, but for chapter sisters and really sisters everywhere, right? That like you're able to meet and connect, and it's like, boom, okay, you got me, I got you. You know, it's all love.
I was gonna say too, I don't know, I know for me and my line, it's weird. Like we have extreme FOMO. I think even now, mind you, like I will ask them, do you want to hang out or whatever else? And those who can will come and we'll hang out or whatever else. But those who can't, when I tell you, if we post anything on social media, but we're all petty though. That's kind of our love language. It's the pettiness. So we, so I've definitely been invited to hang out or whatever. We try to get together and bond, reconnect, of course. And I can't make it. And they post like that they're hanging out, and I'll be like, wow, really? Without me? Just being extra, just because like we loved really hard. And I think that's something that we've had to work through over the years. I think probably in the past like two or 3 years, we've really had to have that reality check. Like everyone is growing up. Some of them are married, some of them have kids, some of them are going through transitions, like Ali mentioned with her line sisters. Like we've had to get to that point, because the first couple of years we were just, so you're just gonna hang out without me? Like, yes, I have other friends. No, you don't. You have us, you know, like we had to go through that. And even with some of my line sisters now, I'm still like that with them to this day. But that's just because I that's my heart. Those are my heartbeats, like for real. That's what it is. I was gonna say too, just touching on the going off to college and transitioning and trying to relearn like family or reconnecting. I know that's something that like me and my older sister had to do, because she went off to college right as I was ending 7th grade. And then we ended up both going, you know, to the same university. She went for grad school, and I went for undergrad. And so we got to reconnect again and see each other more often, but that was 5 years later. So we've had to, you know, she lived her whole undergrad college life, you know, different person, grown up, bossed up, did her whole, you know, damn thing. And then I had to like relearn her, and she had to relearn me. So there are some things that we still knew about each other that, you know, that we could have, of course, we are sisters, of course, but, you know, have that connection with. But it was just like learning like, oh, you don't like that anymore? Oh, you're allergic to that now? Oh, that's new. Oh, you know, just things like that, which was, it was a funny experience. I think we always like laughed about every time we found out something new. And even with my friend, my relationship and my friendship with my mom, I honestly had like a whole breakdown last night, and I just called her and we were just talking. And, you know, she was telling me, you know, I'm always going to be here for your mom. And I was like, do you know, I can be here for you as well. Did you know that? You know? And she was like, you know what? Like, I know that y'all are here for me, because I don't really open up emotionally. And I'm like, duh. You know, I didn't say duh, but I let her vent because she's my mom, of course. But I'm like, duh, of course, you know? And she was like, okay, I will. She said she's gonna start opening up to me. And I just got really excited, even that she vocalized that, because that's something that I really, you know, I really want for her. I want to be there for her too, you know? Just as much as she's always there when she answers my call, I want to reciprocate the energy that's given to me. That's because I love hard. So I definitely feel that for sure.
Yeah. I feel like I'm definitely smelling a future episode of talking more about like family and relationship with our parents. For me, as you know, daughter of a single mom, I always think a mom figure, right? But whatever that figure is to you, because I think there's so much generational trauma to break through. Whenever I try to have conversations with my mom about the things that I remember as a kid, particularly like the tough experiences, she's really defensive. And it's just really difficult, because again, it's like that generational like breakthrough. And I had one really good conversation with her where I was kind of telling her like, you know, it's okay that these things happened, and it doesn't change how I feel about you.
Yeah.
And also like sometimes I need the space to confirm like, did I imagine all of that? You know, like I tried
Exactly.
reflecting with her about like our financial struggles growing up, because I always have this like memory, and I speak of my experience of being from a very low income, if not really poor background, particularly when we lived in Mexico. And I have certain memories of things that I feel like whenever I have tried to like confirm whether they happened or not, she's defensive and doesn't want to like admit them. And it makes me, sometimes it makes me feel, I'm like, well, I don't want to be imagining things, like, right, if I didn't actually overcome the challenges that I think I did, like I don't want that to be a part of my identity. But also, like, I remember she just would tell me or would talk to me about it. So I see that as a further, you know, like experience and discussion. It speaks to the wide just depth of relationships and friendship and right, and love, which is all we're talking about today. Yeah.
Well, one question, I have a closing question for both of you is, do you have a goal for your friendships and or if you're in a relationship? And if you don't, what is one that you want to have for yourself for this year?
I have been single for 10 years, so my goal is to just be very content in myself, because I feel like a lot of those years I've spent pining for love, particularly romantic love, in ways that have distracted me from loving myself. So my personal goal is just to love myself better so that I can love everybody else better. Really keeping it simple, going back to the basics. And hopefully, yeah, that will invite the love that I'm looking for, you know, to come along naturally. Yeah, I think that's good for me, my working goals.
I love that.
I was going to say, I love that too. Get out my head. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Daughter, do you want to share with us what your goal is?
Oh yeah, I can. For me, I actually, just to kind of tap into what Ali said, I actually left a relationship because I wasn't serving myself in the best way. I was forgetting who I was, and I wasn't happy with myself, and it was overall affecting me in the relationship. And I did not, and I was with a great person. That's the crazy part. I was with someone that was not toxic, awesome, and I was messing up left and right emotionally from just my personal perspective. And I just think I was taking them on a whirlwind of my personality, and I was like, I don't want to be the toxic one that, you know, that messes you up. You know, I don't want to do that to you. So I left a relationship last year to do that. And for myself this year, to tap into what Alex said when I originally said that, was that I told myself that I'm not going to date this year. I am not going on any dating apps. I'm not giving out my number. I'm just chilling. Because when I left my relationship last year, I got my head in gear for what I wanted to do, and I accomplished majority of my goals that I had for the year. And that was really exciting. And I knew that if I was actually in a relationship, I wasn't going to be on that hype, but that wasn't going to be my focus. So this year I have bigger goals that I want to achieve. So I know that I have to really focus on myself, and I want to serve myself. And that's, you know, in more than one way. That's just keeping consistent with discipline when it comes to letting people use my energy or tap into me, and also, like, you know, health wise, diet wise. And I just have goals that I'm excited to go after them. It does kind of get a little overwhelming at times, or it does get a little sad sometimes, because you always, whenever you have to withdraw from something, you always think about the good times and not necessarily the things that got you to the point of wanting to focus back on yourself. So I have to just remind myself, like, this is for the betterment of my future. And I know that whenever that does come, whenever the opportunity comes for a relationship, it will be there. But my friendships, I just want to keep consistent with those that I know require like consistency, that we've, you know, made that a requirement for us in our friendships. And then also just to make sure that I remind myself not to self-isolate, because I tend to do that. I don't know, I've kind of hit that point in our wannabe quarantine shelter in place situation for COVID. And everything that everyone was talking about last year, when they were saying like, oh, I don't even know what day it is, I don't even know what's going on. I've kind of hit that plateau now. So I'm just trying to work through that. But what about you, P-Mom?
Yeah, I think especially when I think about friendships, I definitely want to, my goal is to be a little bit more present in other people's lives in whichever way this panoramic panny allows us to.
Pan Dulce.
Pan Dulce, I forgot about that one. I just want to, like I said, feel more confident and more comfortable with the amount of effort that I put into my friendships, and be happy with how much I try, because that's something that I haven't been happy with before. And then similarly, I want to apply again the rebuilding connections and relationships with my family. It's still like an ongoing journey, I think, for me to develop a friendship with my mom. I'd like to develop a friendship with her. I talked last episode about just how different we are and how those differences really, I want to keep such a good relationship with her that I just know, and I've learned how to like tiptoe around the things that I know would hinder that, for sakes of just having a really good relationship. But I also feel like I need to give her some credit. She's a really open-minded, loving person. So I need to just be more open and honest with her. So I love to build a friendship with my mom. That's probably a goal. A goal for
Oh, I
me.
love that.
I know.
That's
She
so
has,
beautiful. Both of your goals.
thanks,
Sorry,
thanks.
Clint.
She still doesn't even know I do this podcast. So I feel like this is probably like a sign of HNA support and accountability to like maybe tell her. I don't know. I also don't want her to listen to it though.
Well, hey, listen. My mom was listening to my podcast at first, and then as I started talking more openly, she decided to not, because it just, there are some perspectives that really maybe she didn't want to find out about through the podcast, maybe didn't agree with. So for the sake of your potential friendship with
Right.
mom, you might be all right keeping this to yourself.
No, I think, and I think I will, because I think the difference that I think between, right, like for example, hearing your mom just be like, you know what, I'm gonna fall back, I'm gonna let her do her podcast, and I'm gonna just keep talking to her when I talk to her. My mom would sit me down and she would want me to like end the podcast. And again, I have an amazing mother. But that's sort of, I think, how deep rooted like she's internalized just a lot of issues. And we talked a lot last week about, particularly around, how women present themselves and what they talk about and what's okay to do and not to do, let alone talk about it and telling all these people, I just don't want to have that, because again, I've also grown into being like I'm a very independent person, and I like can very rarely be shaken out of my beliefs. And so I don't want to ever reach a point where I have to heavily disagree with my mom. So yeah, we're keeping this one to ourselves, folks. If my cousins are listening, don't tell nobody. Nobody.
I think that's interesting too. Just one thing about my mom is that she grew up in a very conservative home, not only just because of the belief system that she was raised in, but also she was, raised under a Caribbean household, and it's very strict, very restricted and disciplined. So that's how she had, and she knew she didn't want that for her children, but it's still, some stuff are still instilled in her. So we weren't sheltered from stuff, even our aunts would not let that happen. We had nurses in our family, they were not about, so I knew about everything, okay, for sure. Just for health reasons, my aunts were like, no, this is what you're gonna learn. But I think my mom had her own evolution of herself. Like, I feel like maybe not to others and what people consider a hot girl now, but my mom has definitely turned into her own version of a hot girl. Because in our belief system, you don't wear jewelry, you don't wear makeup, things of that sort. And when I tell you, my mom always had her nails done, but when she turned like 45, she started wearing red nail polish, which she never wore before. She started wearing makeup. Started wearing jewelry, just bangles and clip-ons. And I was excited. Okay. Let me tell you, okay. Excited for her. Like, she just got her eyebrows microbladed. So she has like a tattoo. Basically, she got her eyebrows tattooed. And me and my sister didn't think she was going to do it. And she did it. And we're like, okay, not you with the tattoo. So now we're just excited. Every step she takes, we're like, yes, what's next? We're trying to see if she's going to get her ear pierced. Probably not, but I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because she's over clip-on. She's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm like, you're right. You know what you should do? Cheers. Just think about it. No pressure.
Can I add to this
Yeah.
too? Just how beautiful it is that both of you are pursuing, yourself, but also just healthy relationships, period. And I think to your point, Maria, of spending a year not dating, staying focused on your goals, and Gabby, to your point of, really nourishing the familial relationships that you have in your life, a lot of that requires the space that I talked about, people providing one another the space, to come as you are, the space to move through the different phases and stages of the relationship that will exist. And to do the work that is required for forgiveness. Like, some relationships are going to take time to rebuild or to re-familiarize yourself with. And part of that process is going to require having a willingness to forgive, maybe not forget, but forgive the things that, were not right. And I had to do that with my dad this summer. I've been doing that with even sisters that I've fallen out with, and been able to rebuild relationships with, by just owning what I did wrong and asking, how could I be a better friend to you, or how could I be a better daughter, or, insert whatever role it is you play. So I want to add that, restoring and healing relationships is a goal for me this year too. And it just seemed to be kind of an underlying theme for all three of us that I find to be really beautiful.
Yes.
So
I think we'll close right. I love that.
You wrapped it up so beautifully.
I know. Allie's the one, man. Allie's always been the one. Okay.
Oh,
Let me just say that.
No, I really do appreciate the way that you kind of tie all that up, because it helps, right, to know we really do joke around the support and accountability in SNA, but I think we've never not found, even when we were recording just the two of us, like something in common, let alone now that we're, you're a second guest. We've never not been able to relate, and it's why I feel like we want to talk with the folks that we want to talk to about the themes that we want to talk about, because it really helps tie in the like sort of community aspect of like we can all hold each other accountable and support each other through whatever these processes look like for us.
Yeah.
Well, bring me back when you talk about family, please.
Oh,
self-volunteering.
Yes.
Write it down.
Write it down. Put it in the schedule. Ali, it's been such a pleasure having you with us today. I am so grateful for your time and for your energy and your vulnerability and just sharing, and really for also your perspective, because I know your perspective comes from a place of experience and knowledge. So I really, really do appreciate that. And I hope you have an awesome VDay.
Yes. Love that for you.
Thank you.
Also, besides just it being Valentine's Day or Galentine's Day or however you want to celebrate this day, or if it's just another Sunday for you, I hope that everyone listening, as well as my co-host and guests, are staying hydrated.
I don't have it.
Her Logic already knew what I was about to say. I want to make sure everyone stays hydrated out there, that you consume water today, because water is a necessity. If you want to love on yourself, the first way you can love on yourself for sure is staying hydrated, okay? Give your body what it needs. It wants it, but it needs it more importantly. So that reminder out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Right on. I have my water bottle right here.
Yes. See? Love it.
Ali, before we let you go, do you want to remind our listeners what you do and where to find you?
Yes.
How they can keep up with you?
They can find me on Instagram at hey.pro. Oh, wow. I realized there's a typo this whole time. Hey, probe B. That's terrible. Probe. Oh, anyway, Professor B. So it's hey.prof.b, Prof B. You can find me for some occasional shenanigans, commentary on things that are happening, and just keeping up with me. Eventually, there'll be more going on, but if you just like my personality, that's pretty much what you're going to get on my Instagram. It's just more of that. So yeah, follow me. I'm a professor also. So if you're in college and you need a public speaking class or communication studies class, look me up, particularly if you're at City College. I'm here and always looking for students who actually want to be in my class. So, but that's about it. Thank you.
Yes. All of a
Thank
sudden,
you, Ellie.
all of a sudden, I need to sharpen up my public speaking skills.
I know I do.
I do offer private consulting as well. So
Oh,
if
put that
people
in
are
there.
interested,
Put that in there. Yes.
yes, I
Get
do
her
private
up there.
consulting for presenters and speakers. So holla at me if you need.
So it's time for another edition of Queer Chronicles. And for this,
until I learn how to do that, I know you want that effect, and until I learn how to do it, it's gonna have to just be
okay. We have to get one of those little soundboards that there's an app for that. There's an app for everything. But for this edition of Queer Chronicles, we want to talk about the infamous U-Haul myth. And Cabona Logic, would you like to explain what the U-Haul myth is for folks that don't know?
Yeah, so we're definitely going to talk about the truth behind the myth, but the U-Haul stereotype, particularly in like queer relationships, really speaks to the fact that it's sort of a part of the queer culture for relationships to just move really fast and really quickly. And the U-Haul references, of course, specifically made to the act of moving in together relatively soon after you start dating or you meet somebody. My first exposure with like this whole concept, and of course it was part of my queer puberty moment of like coming out and then watching the L Word.
Oh yeah.
Just the plenty and numerous amounts that they portrayed the U-Haul stereotype so beautifully, may I add.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a little bit of what it is. That's how I understand it to be. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, is there some truth? Is it a myth?
Yeah. One thing just to start with, I will say I've gone to at least two different, this is pre-COVID, of course, two different club events that were themed U-Haul.
Oh, wow.
At gay clubs. So just to let you know, like this was a supported, even
I was not invited.
I didn't know where we were going. I found out once we got there because everything was like U-Haul themed, and the drinks were, I forgot the names of the drinks. They were so funny, but it was literally all U-Haul themed. There's like a back of a type of like U-Haul truck in the like look.
Were there boxes? Were there boxes around?
There were no boxes, but I thought they should have added that in there. Like, that would make more sense.
At the stage,
but yes, it was so funny. It was the funniest thing ever. Just to start with. But I would. Oh God, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I definitely think it's not a myth. I think it's completely true. For two or three reasons. One, from my personal perspective, I will say I did end up marrying the first woman I dated. So there's that. She proposed to me, I think 6 times before I said yes. And that was all in our first year together. So there's that. I finally said yes. And after the last time, when we had been together for at least 1.5 years at that point. So that's when I finally said yes. But just to give you that, the first time she asked me, we were like 3.5, 4 months in. Just to give our listeners, there's that. So
we're gonna start a count.
Yeah, there's that. And then 2 was, I literally just saw a TikTok video about this. There's this one woman who started dating someone, and I guess they're more like mass presenting, and she basically got her, they've been dating for like a little over a month. I think she said maybe a month or a month and a half. And she realized what she was going to get her for Valentine's Day. And she basically got her like hoe bag because whenever her, I guess significant other would spend the night, she wouldn't have stuff to wear, things like that. So she got her a whole duffel bag full of like boxers, like underwear, sleepwear, like their favorite deodorant, their smell goods, like washcloths, towel, things like that sort, toothbrush, toothpaste, all that. And then also in our box, put the garage whatever button to her place and the key to her place. And so a lot of the comments were like, oh, you need to be careful, yada, yada, yada. But people who are queer in the comments that knew, they were all saying, tell me you're queer without telling me you're queer. Like, this would be a perfect example.
Literally.
Like, they already knew, like,
that
it
needs
was
to
just
be a trend.
There was no question about it. Like, they already understood, where it was coming from. And I thought that was really funny, because people that don't know, they're like, whoa, you moving really fast. But when you're in it, it seems normal and it makes sense. And it's like, why wasn't I moving this fast before? But I know for me, if I was dating a man and they asked me as many times as my ex-wife did, or as many times, or even me saying yes at that time, I would never.
Yeah.
And a hetero relationship, no. I would look at him like he was crazy.
You were in a dream.
Yes. Yeah. For sure.
I mean, what can I say? Yes, absolutely. From my experience, I not only still dating the first woman that I dated since I came out, but it's been a few years now, over 3 years now. Maria snapping. Snaps. But we also moved in. When did we move in together? Like 2 years ago, so maybe like a year after or so. Mm-hmm. And I think I will say this: I don't think it was as much of a U-Haul moment, because again, it had been at least a year. I mean, in some ways, I do believe in it, because I know that like the moment that I started like dating my current partner, we were together all the time, like spending the night at each other's places, etc. So like it was very much like with the like co-living thing already, but then we moved in, and really I just feel like it's so, again, going back to like the L word, it's so like telling that I just see myself in such a long-term relationship with the first woman that I'm dating, and of how quickly I think it moved in some ways. I mean, it wasn't months, I will say that, but this is also because there's other aspects of our relationship that I feel like led us to taking our time in certain areas. But in my head, it was a done deal from the beginning. So it's in some ways it's nice to know that, like, yeah, here we are. It is a successful, right, like long relationship, but it's also like, yeah, the only woman I've dated.
Yeah, I remember, I wish I could have found that chart. I was just looking for it right now on my phone, but there was the one like stud woman that basically made a whole video and made a diagram chart of the comparison from like a queer relationship to a standard hetero relationship, and like the levels to it. So she was saying at 6 months, as in like hetero relationships, and maybe just saying I love you, things of that sort. She was like, queer relationships, they've already said I love you, they probably have a pet together, they're thinking about moving in. 1 year they're moved in, they're engaged, it's happening. And like it was down to like that. And I thought that was so funny, because I think honestly it's honestly true at that point. Mm-hmm. And I just looked up too because it's actually, there's a whole bunch of articles on the U-Haul. Actually, it's like the U-Haul syndrome or stereotype, they say. But they more so refer to like lesbian relationships, but this is the U-Haul lesbian or U-Haul syndrome as a stereotype of lesbian relationships, referring to the joke that lesbians tend to move in together on the second date. It suggests an extreme inclination towards monogamy or committed relationships. It can either be considered complimentary or pejorative, depending on the context. But yeah, I guess everyone else saying it's kind of like an old joke, and I'm like, nah, I think it's still pretty current.
It is not old. It is not old, because again, there are certain parts of my relationship that are still pretty, that don't align, right? Like we I don't want to say this because it's not throwing shade, but like we didn't get engaged, we haven't gotten married, you know.
Yeah,
like
y'all are taking your time, which is
right.
totally fine. Yeah. But I feel like in a queer world, they're like, what's up?
Well, no, not just that, but I constantly make this joke to her of like, did it really need to take that long for us to make our relationship official? Like we were all up in each other's beeswax, like all the time. And mind you, when we started dating, it's technically you would consider it, you know, not like long distance relationship. We were like at least an hour away, like 45, 50 minutes away. It was always like traffic. So like at least an hour away, right, from each other. But it didn't feel that way because we literally somehow managed to see each other like every single day. So like we might as well should have, and that's exactly how we ended up moving in together. But really, I think what I know what it meant for our relationship is like, nope, here's another step. And you know, now we are setting up a new place and it's like, yep, nope, this is still moving, the train's still going. But yeah, I do think there's some pieces that maybe just have to do with like maybe the way that like we individually like deal with commitment and stuff. Like I don't like question my commitment, but you know, I'm okay not being married. Like that's okay. That works for me.
It's a whole new ballgame, I will say. So I love that people do take their time in going, you know, getting to that step or just realizing that, because honestly, it is paperwork. It's a business. It's a partnership. It's just legalizing what you already affirmed already and what you know. So, and for some reason, once that title does come, there's a different like feeling. And then you have to process and go through that journey of that too. So I definitely recommend folks that do take their time, like don't feel, people might try to pressure you, like, oh, you're not together yet or whatever. But I mean, look at Oprah and Stedman, they did. They're just in a partnership. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's just a partnership. And I feel that because there's things that come with that. Like if she takes his name, or most likely he would take her name because Oprah's a boss, you know what I'm saying? Like that would be, now that it's legally binding, that means we're partners. That means everything that I own, unless there's a prenup involved, like it gets sticky. Yeah. So I totally get why people take their time and whatnot. And I love when I see queer relationships that are just, you know, I guess it's really just taking the standard steps, what are considered normal steps in their relationships, because things do change, you grow, you change, and then your relationship has to adjust with that too. So it's always fun. I think it's fun to see. Yeah. I think, you know, again, it can look in different ways, but when you go to the definition that you described, right? Second date, I'm pretty sure we started spending the night at each other at first date. So there, like that level of like, you know, the speed was there for sure. And then, of course, because I think something that was interesting about the definition that you read is that it's talked something about people who pursue like deep monogamous relationships or something. What did it say? Yeah, it makes me think of like how the U-Haul myth applies to maybe like open relationships or polyamorous relationships, or folks who don't date, right, and who like just F around, like how it's still part of, again, I watch a lot of the L Word. A lot. That was my introduction. That was like here's what you've been missing, you know? And you see it, right, of like, it's almost like the turnaround of relationships can happen, maybe even at the same speed that when, you know, cis women date like cis men or something, but it's in some ways like it's intensified, like, you know, you see the level of intensity. And I saw that in an article too. There's an article that said that how honestly, if you compare the different relationships, they're actually just about the same, but it's just the intensity and what's involved in their relationship that really plays a part into going towards like the myth, or that being a stereotype that kind of continues. I think even with my ex-wife, with I think by our second or third conversation, we hadn't even gone on a date yet. It was kind of like we already knew we were going to get together. Right. I think, yeah. It was already like, yeah.
I think that's how I was too. And again, like I was like practicing my newfound patience, right? I don't need to know what this is, because I used to say this all the time. Like at the very beginning, you know, people ask you the typical questions, right? Like, are you dating exclusively? Are you this or that? And I was trying to grow on the piece of myself that wasn't like all controlling over our relationships. I was, you know, playing it cool as a cucumber, not asking questions, just, you know, satisfied with what I was receiving, because I was being treated well, and, you know, and you know, people would ask like, oh, like, are y'all exclusive? And I'm like, you know what, I don't know. And they're like, well, do you want to know? Like, what if she's like talking to somebody? And my answer was always like, I'd be so freaking surprised if she has time to talk to somebody else, because the amount of time that I feel like I'm receiving out of this relationship and that I'm giving, and how much time I take from her, there's just no possible way she got time. I wouldn't have time, so she doesn't have time. Like, and that's how I truly like felt, because I was just like, there's just no way. Like, this is established, this is clear. We're good. We're here. We're queer. We got it. Like, it's happening. Yeah.
I knew it was solidified when I remember, because they were on leave from the military at the time, and just like to go visit family. It was like from the holiday breaks, and then so we basically hung out for maybe a couple days while they were home. And I remember I wasn't dropping her to the airport. I think I was. I went to go pump gas really quick. Or I went to go pay inside, because she was like, I'll pump. I went to go pay inside, and I came back, and she got off the car to pump, and I saw my phone, and I was like, oh, okay, like what's whatever. But I saw that I had like, I was just checking my call log for some reason. And I saw that this guy that I don't even date anymore, we just have conversations here and there, but I used to date them, had called me. And I was like, I didn't answer. And I looked, and it said that like it was answered. So I was like, and she didn't say anything, right? And I found out maybe like a week or so later from the guy that she answered the phone and basically said like, you need to stop calling her. She's in a relationship now. And I mean, the conversation didn't go as smooth as that, but that basically what was said. So yeah, so I guess it was shut down on all other sides before I knew what the future held for us. So
I wonder if that's how my girlfriend felt, except I didn't do that to her. But I know that you know, she obviously wanted to be with me. but I think we viewed commitment differently, and this is I'm pretty sure that I'm like her first like long-term relationship, and she's not my first long-term relationship. And that I think is always like, again, like a process of like, I'm constantly balancing, right? Like me learning and not being the, you know, at times like toxic partner that I had been in the past with her, but also not allowing that to derail me from what I want and what I expect from a relationship, right? So like, if you're out here spending, you know, like not 3, I mean, I think we were seeing each other like 5 out of the 7 days of the week, like, and I'm not your girlfriend, like, at a certain point, my chill self is like, well, I deserve a title. Like, I don't need the title, but after a year, we got it. Like, but I had to wait, and that was my newfound patience. And again, I think it was part of my growth to, again, trust her and trust what we were building and trust what we, you know, how we were treating each other, trust what I was getting out of the relationship, right? Like it was a relationship, except the title did not mean something else for other people. And I had my lesson of what I wanted it to mean for me and learning what it meant for my partner. And, you know, here we are. Happy.
Oh, just for the listeners, I like love them. Okay, when my P mom first told me about her partner, and then I knew of them ahead of time, but when I actually met them and things like that, and I don't know why I got their number for whatever reason, but I remember when I did get their number, I wrote them in my phone as like stepmom.
I remember
Already
that.
from the get-go. They weren't even, I don't know, I think we were only dating for a little bit at the time. It wasn't
Oh
even that
yeah.
long to it,
I
but I wrote them in as
totally.
stepmom.
Oh yeah. Well, you met her. So I ambushed her. So she went to a college where there isn't any Greek life. So I don't think she was as familiar with Greek life. The first time that sisters met her was at the crossing party for Upsilon chapter at California State University East Bay.
Hey, area.
Yeah. So you know, as you know, your sibling, my daughter, is a founder of the chapter, and I was like, hey, there's this function, I have to be there. But I also had to like tell her, like, I have responsibilities tonight, you know, and like, this is what you're stepping into. You know, this is what's going to be happening, and this is my role, and I have to be running after this one little girl that doesn't want to drink water. I love you, Tanya.
Yeah.
You know, like, this is what I'm going to be doing. So like, you know, let's find you some people you're comfortable with, and just like
my
talk.
ex was there with her too.
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
the same thing with my partner at the time. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like they knew about Greek life, so they already, you know, knew what the situation was. But I think it didn't hit them until they never really seen multicultural orgs. So to kind of see from that perspective. But yeah, I know like my ex-partner definitely had conversations with your partner during the night because they're like, what do we do?
Right. Afterwards, I actually felt a little bit bad because she was like, I didn't know that's how many like people were going to be there, because I couldn't. And of course, you know, everybody and their mama was trying to meet her. So I was like trying to like pace it and like introduce her and like let her like talk to people. And then like somebody would be like, oh, so hi, Club. Like I remember like Shirley like, hey, I haven't met her. Oh, hey, I haven't. And everybody was like, oh, hey, do we have somebody to meet? And I was like, I feel so bad because so many people wanted to meet her. And, you know, everybody was super nice. I think I do remember you did pull her aside for a conversation. I remember watching it and being like, what are they talking about? Like,
really? I have to think back. It was
you asked their questions. You did your duty.
I mean, because I met her before that, but that was because this is now was more so like a consistent thing. This is more real. I met like at your graduation or previously, but that was more so like
that was like super fresh
phase kind of so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep my eye on you. And then I think that like whatever trip happened, so it was more real now. So I'm like, okay, you're gonna be in her life in one way or another. So I was like, I had to let her know.
But I think signs that she was gonna survive is, you know, to this day she'll reference people she met at that party. Like she'll still be like, oh yeah, I met them at like the party in East Bay, right? And I'm like,
look at you, 2 points. 2 points for you. But basically, to close it all up, to sum it all up, the U-Haul myth, do you think it's true? Yes or no?
Yes, from my experience, yes.
Same here. Yes.
Myth,
true.
not debusted.
Right. I didn't know. I was like, yeah.
You know, if it was gonna be like busted, it's like not
busted. Continue. Carry on smartly.
Yes.
But before we get off, I'm gonna make sure we want to do our snap segment.
Yes.
So our snap segment is where we give a shout out to someone that we just want to highlight, you know, give them a little bit more exposure because they're awesome in everything that they do. So snaps. So Kim Mom, who are the snaps to?
Yes. The snaps this week go to, let me pull it up. Goes to
We're going.
Okay. We're gonna give a shout out to another deuce today. We mentioned her briefly earlier. One of our sorors at Sigma chapter has a dog bakery business on Instagram. And I'm telling you, I got a picture of my package. I'm going to be reunited with my little doggy today. And I just cannot wait to open it and share with him the treats. As well as my cute little hat that I got. But we got him these carrot and sweet potato treats in like a bundle that also has a dog mom hat. And I'm just so excited to wear it. But enough about that. You can find, so I believe that she's running this with her partner. They are dog parents of 4, and they make organic treats and organic cakes and cupcakes. They are in the Southern California area, so sometimes they'll be at some like pop-up shops, but they also do ship. And you can find them on Instagram at Perfect Dog Bakery.
Yeah, so it's like perfect, but it's Paul instead, so PAW.
Instead of
Just to clarify.
PER, it's
Right.
PAWFECT Dog Bakery on Instagram.
Yes.
Please check them out. Check out everything that they have going on, as well as more info about all the kinds of flavors of treats that they have, so that you can give some love to the little one that gives you love year round.
Oh, that is so cute. Now that was, if there was ever a promo or ad, that would have been perfect. Okay.
Right? I've been seeing that challenge on TikTok of like, can you be a voice actor? And I want to try it. But I started laughing.
I want to try it too. I think I'm gonna go back and try to do it.
Yeah. Well, here we are, another episode of So Basically, a podcast about queer stories,
our bond through sisterhood,
and our blunt, semi-filtered thoughts, because we need to keep our jobs.
On that part.
On that part, yes. Once again, our episodes are released on Wednesdays, and you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, as well as SoundCloud. My name is Carbona Logic.
And I'm the Black Maria.
And we out. Uni out.
What did